Today we're going to be reviewing the LinkStation N1. This is an all-flash based NAS, and it's a micro NAS, which is cool. Low footprint as far as size and hopefully wattage. We'll be measuring that, and we're also going to be measuring some of the performance. One of the things I like about this is it comes with a pretty recent CPU on it, and it also comes with a 2.5 gigabit port as well. Of course, it's all flash, so you can utilize 2.5 drives and M.2 NVMEs in this of your choosing. And we've got a bunch of those that we'll be testing out today to see what kind of performance we can get on this. I think this is really an interesting unit. Also, when they contacted me, I was actually drawn to the fact that it includes an UnRAID license with it. As somebody who likes UnRAID myself, I think this might be a pretty decent offering, especially for the price. You can find more about that in the link below to them. And thanks to our sponsor for providing this unit, although they have no input after the fact of providing the unit to me and no editorial review whatsoever. So they won't see this until you see this. Let's get started. And so the box is actually a pretty quality little thing here. Looks like it comes with a manual, not a very huge manual here, but some basic things, talking about the Celeron N5150 that it comes with, 16 gigabytes of memory. The N5105 is a Celeron processor that has 4 megs of cache, can throttle up to 2.9 gigahertz. This is one of the Jasper Lake CPUs, and it is a newer one. I like to see that, especially in an item that is being put out right now. With a 10-watt TDP, this is actually a little bit of an energy miser as well. You can see the launch date of Q1 2021. That's pretty recent, and it has a max of 16 gigabytes DDR4. That is indeed what is installed in this unit, with 2.9 gigahertz of max memory speed and 2 channels. I also like the fact that it has Intel UHD graphics. It does come with Intel QuickSync video support and modern DirectX and OpenGL support as well. Even being able to hit 4K at 60 hertz. That's pretty cool. Now, you can see that we have Gen 3 speeds and 8 PCIe lanes here. The utilization and breakdown of those as it's distributed to the actual NVMEs, I'm not aware of yet. This is one thing that I wish we saw more of on this unit, and that is USB ports. We can see that the max would be 14 here, and while we only have 2, that is a bit of a letdown. We have 1 USB-C on the front as well. The integrated wireless is the wireless AC, and that is actually pretty good. As far as speed, I think that we'll be pretty happy with that. The max number of SATA 6 ports is 2, which we do have exposed here as well. Does have quite a few capabilities for some things as far as the neural processing, image processing units that are built into it, as well high definition audio. The Intel SpeedStep technology, so hopefully we can get good idle state performance as well, although I'm not sure that UnRAID is necessarily built to maximize that. As well, we have all the needed extensions for VTX and VTD, so that will help us with any sort of Docker or VMs that we would be running. I think this is a pretty good selection of CPUs for a high-performance flash-based 2.5 gigabit per second connected network filer. And if it was 10 gigabit, maybe you would want to see some higher speeds, but definitely for 2.5, I think we're not going to run into any bottleneck. I think the 2.5 is going to be a limiter on what we see as far as performance. I would say if there is one thing to improve in the future on this package, having a 10 gigabit option would be something that would be, in my opinion, very smart to do to appeal to even a slightly higher end cadre of buyers. So let's get this unit popped out of here. And that's pretty cool. So that's the Link Plus unit that we've got here. It does have, you know, a nice quality metal feel to it. This is all aluminum, it looks like, down here on this. And let's go ahead and see if we can open up the front port there. So we can open up the front port just by pulling down a little bit. And let's see how these come out. Okay, so these caddies come out just by sliding like that. And then your caddy is here. So let me go ahead and put that back in for right now. You've got a front-facing Type-C USB port. You also have a QR code that I'm not quite sure exactly what that is. Looks like you have a variety of LEDs here that will light up whenever you have activity on one of those ports. On the back side, we've got our 2.5 gigabit NIC, 2 USB connections, an HDMI out, and an audio out. This also has a DC jack plug on it. And on the bottom, you can see that we've got our NVMe covers. And so if we pull these, we should be able to see that we've got not just 2, but 4 NVMe's. We're also going to be testing this out with some more pedestrian 970 Evo Pluses. These are kind of more moderate, lower end. So we've got 4 of these, and we've also got 2 of the 2.5 SSDs. And I would even recommend utilizing some of the back USB ports for connecting to possibly an external drive bay if you wanted to expand your longer term storage on this, or just even a couple of external USB drives. All right, so let's go ahead, get this connected and power it on and check it out. The power adapter there and a power plug. Now, one thing I note that is missing here is this plug type is wrong for the United States. So if I look inside here, oh dear. Well, there's one thing this company is lucky about, and that is that I have a freakish amount of different cords. So I do have a cord that will work for that. That looks like it's a European style plug. So I'm going to go do a little digging expedition and find the power supply for it. But that is one thing that definitely this company does need to get worked out, is making sure that they provide either the correct plug for the region it's shipping to, or make sure that they have multiple types of plugs that are included in the actual product. So it didn't take long for me to find a replacement for this plug, but do keep in mind this is definitely not the right plug. So I hope the company can get that squared away if they're planning on shipping these to the United States. I'm in the US and they knew they shipped it to me, so that one was an oversight. And you can see here that we've got a replacement one. We've got tons of different cords out there. So of course I had one that was ready to go. We're either about to fry this thing or we're about to turn it on. Let's go ahead and power it up. And the power button is in the top right there. And the device fails to power up. So that is going to probably come back to the power cord adapter here. I was surprised that it's failing to power up, because this does indicate that it works from 100 to 240 volts AC. So it should be okay, provided that the connection is okay, and the connection looks like it's just perfectly fine here. So not 100% certain what's going on. I guess I can try to measure here and see if we got DC voltage out of this. And we do have 12.16 volts, so that should be what we're after. So after messing around with this for just a little bit, I was able to get the correct polarity to get this powered on. Polarity on 120 volt AC. So essentially, which side is going to be plugged in on each side here actually matters in the US, whereas on a 220 VAC plug does not matter. So had to reverse that. That's definitely something that is unacceptable in my opinion, that the company does have to figure that out before they move forward with releasing this to the public. If they're only going to ship it with one plug type, they should only sell in that particular country. So let's go ahead and power on the device now. And when the power is on, it gives you a beep and it does illuminate blue. So the device is powering up, and we should see the monitor start to display some information here shortly. Okay, it does look like it is going into the UnRAID OS boot mode here. And it did give us briefly an IP address there. If you saw that, 1.204 was the IP address. On your computer, you can get to this just by going to tower and then /. And your default login would be root and 123456, which of course you should definitely change. Now, it does look like it comes with UnRAID OS Basic here. And if we click on this real quick, we should hopefully be able to see that it is a legitimate license that is applied to it. It does ask us if we would like to upgrade. So that does appear like it actually has validated that license. Go to Tools really quick and check our registration. And we can see that the flash is a generic type and it is replaceable at any time. And the who it's registered to here, I don't know what to say about that. I'm not sure what this means. Let's see what this means. Wisdom. All right, so it is registered to Wisdom here. I need to check this key with UnRAID. Yes, I do. And so I did reach out to UnRAID and ask them, there is a relationship here, right? I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be promoting something that might not have a legal license with it. And indeed, they did confirm that they do have a relationship with the Link Station company. That's great news because this is actually a pretty cool product. Okay, so to start off with, we're going to install our 4 Evo 970 Pluses. If we have time, we're going to go on to the PSLC SSDs. I'm going to go ahead and remove each one of these silicone pads, place it over on the associated tray, and then we can go ahead and install each one of these. And just pop that back and put it into place. And repeat for the additional ones. Let's go ahead and lay down the pads on top of these. Even though these are not going to be really hot running NVMEs, it is nice that they included this for free in case you don't have any additional silicone pads. And now we'll put on these door tops. Next up, we're going to install a couple of 1 terabyte SSDs. These are 2.5-inch SSDs. So if you just kind of peel down there and then pop your fingers in and pull out, you can get access to these trays. Now, it does look like there's no screws that I could find, so luckily I've got tons and tons of screws, but you do need to screw these into the 4 positions here. And attention to detail is pretty important, so I hope that they do make sure to include those in the product when they ship it out, because people probably will need to have those 8 screws if they don't already. If you are buying a brand new product and you're hoping to get it up and running, you don't want to have to wait on ordering something from Amazon for an extra part or something like that. No, it goes in upside down like this. Okay. Yep, and actually I did feel that push into place there, so it's a good sign. Now the case top is plastic, so you want to be careful not to scratch it. I think you could definitely see I already scratched it with my ring here on the top, so be careful of the finish on this. This does look like if you have a ring, you could scratch it. Now we have 4 NVMEs installed. We have 2 SSDs installed. It does seem pretty good. Go ahead and close that up and take a look at what the wattage is looking like here with these devices installed. And I'm not sure if you can see, but there is kind of a cool blue light that pulses inside here as well. And we're booting up. And right now the wattage is looking right around 25, 26 watts during boot up. Now that we've fully booted up, looks like we're idling somewhere around 18 to 25 watts. And so if you did want to connect additional hard drives, you would definitely need to upgrade your key because you can only connect 6 devices to this. If you look at your basic to plus upgrade, then you would be able to attach 12 devices, or the basic to pro upgrade, you would be able to attach an unlimited amount of storage devices. Myself, I usually have pro licenses on all of my things so that I can connect as many devices as I want to pools. But in this configuration, we're going to go ahead. I've reduced the device count for the array down to 3 from this dropdown. And for the cache pool, I have put this at 4. And we're going to select one of the 1 terabyte SSDs here and one of the 1 terabyte SSDs there. That will give us a 1 terabyte size for our main storage array. And for our cache, this is what we're going to hit when we're writing files. When we're moving files, we're going to use these NVMEs. Okay, that looks good. So if you wanted to change your file system type, options for ButterFS, ZFS, of course you can go encrypted on either of those, or if you leave it as auto, it'll reference your settings. We're going to go with ZFS here, and we're going to set this up as a mirror with 2 groups of 2 devices, or you could do 1 group of 4 devices. 2 groups of 2 devices should give us just a little bit of edge here. We'll check the box for format here to create the file system, and we'll click on format. And since we have nothing really in our parity 2 sync here, I'm going to go ahead and click cancel on that. And you can now see that we've got our 1 terabyte of parity backed space here, and we've got our 500 gigabytes of very fast, should be incredibly fast performance cache here. Now we're going to go to our shares management, and we're going to add a share, and we're going to call this share video. We're going to use the cache for this and then move to the second storage, which is the array. And that is pretty much all that we have to do. The mover action will take care of the rest, and that will move from the cache to the array. We'll click on Add Share. And next, we're going to create an SMB export. So click on Yes, and you can leave this as auto and public, and we'll click Apply. The basic shares plus our videos share here. If we go to users, you can see that we have our root user, and you definitely want to change that password from 123456 to something significantly more secure. You can also add additional users to your setup as well here. We need to install the Community Applications application to be able to access the store. And once we have the store and the plugins up and running, there you go. You can see that we've got quite a bit of awesome stuff here. And do take a chance to check out Space Invader 1 for all sorts of great information around how you can set up multiple different devices and multiple different pieces of software that do really cool things to extend your system and its functionality. We're going to be looking at this just from basically the one use case which I mentioned earlier for creators, which is videos. And we're going to be uploading some 4K videos to this and seeing how using this as a remote share is going to pan out. Now we're going to be using a 2.5 gigabit per second connection, and that should allow us to have, I think, a pretty decent experience here. Now, 500 gigabytes is not a tremendous amount, and 993 gigabytes here is not a tremendous amount. But check the links below for some good options that are much better. Getting some 4 terabyte drives is something you can do pretty cheap as far as SSDs, and 2 terabyte NVMEs are actually pretty cheap nowadays as well. So we have our shares enabled here, and we should be able to go to the network and see our tower and click on videos. So now that we've got our videos, let's go ahead and check the transfer speed at 1 gigabyte per second. Interestingly, got a link station folder here. So I'm going to grab this and drag this whole thing in. You can see we are easily hitting the speed that we should be hitting. And let's take a look at what that's doing as far as the CPU right now as we're transferring over. And we're running right about 17 to 20 watts. And now that that's done, it's idled back down to about 12 watts. Okay, so now that we have this over here, this is just 1 gigabit currently. We can actually play some of the video, and it does look like it's fairly responsive. Let's go to a larger one here and see if we can get some additional zooming around, see how laggy it is. So that's not bad. So I have a whole folder here that is actually a editing folder with Kdenlive, so we can actually check out the performance. So we're going to copy the low power petabyte video over there, and you can see we are limited for sure by that 100
110 megabytes per second. That would take 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's go ahead and plug in the 2.5 gigabit NIC.
For somebody that has quite a few network switches and even a 100 gigabit switch that I haven't hooked up yet, buying more switches didn't seem like something that I really needed to do, but this is a 2.5 gigabit with two 10 gigabit NIC switch, and I thought that's a cool combination, and it was actually really cheap. And I've kind of been needing a 2.5 gigabit NIC switch, so it was actually a good time for me to go ahead and get one. Let's go ahead and hook these up and see if they negotiate, first off, at 2.5. Should, without any hitches here, just be as simple as unplugging this and plugging it in here. And on these devices, this yellow light for L1 through L4 is 2.5 gigabit, so it does look like it is negotiated at 2.5 gigabit. Next, I've got a 10 gigabit card already in my system that we'll be using, so I'll unplug that from here. And while the rest of the network segment that it's on is 1 gigabit, the connection between these two should negotiate, theoretically, to the Threadripper Pro here and the link station, our NAS, and our desktop at a really great speed. Let me go ahead and grab that fiber. Fiber out of here, and then slide this on in here. And we do have our connection here as well. So we've got our 10 gigabit connection on the Threadripper Pro coming over here. So our segment should be able to negotiate at faster speeds. Now let's test that out.
So now when we paste this over, we can see that we are hitting faster speeds indeed. We are now at 2.62, 2.5. That is where we should be. Okay, so there we go. Now we can see that we are moving indeed 2.5 gigabits per second onto the device. And this should be hitting our share over here. And it does look like it is. Let's change this over to counters, and you can see that easily, not stressing it at all, 600, 700 megabytes per second being sustained on this. So we're not seeing any speed dips here as it hits the cache, and eventually it'll be moved over to the longer term array device. And of course, the reason for 2.5 gigabit is because most of the Cat 5 that you have ran in walls throughout the world will work with 2.5 gigabit. But as you go up in speed, the tolerances for that go down. So 10 gigabit Ethernet does become more problematic than 2.5. Overall, very happy with this so far. We're going to be editing this composition in Kdenlive, which of course, open source software that I use since ditching Adobe. Great decision on my part, and Kdenlive does most of the things most content creators would be looking for if you are not into fancy productions. Let's go ahead and replace those files over there. Perfect. We'll open up the project here now. And this is indeed a pretty large project. So loading this over the NAS is going to be incurring quite a bit of network traffic and disk activity. You can see that we surged up there as we were reading the file and the composition loading. Okay, let's move out a little bit on the timeline here and do some moving around and see how long it takes to catch up with certain skips that we're doing. And you know, this is not bad at all. This is very much not bad at all. And this is 4K UHD 30 frames per second that this was rendered in. So seeing this happen this fast, I think actually is a pretty good sign that the 2.5 gigabit choice that was made by the people at LinkStation was very critical for this to be a good product for somebody that might be looking at themselves as a creator. This is never good. This is not a supported configuration recommendation for true. So even that, you can see streaming over the LAN, no problem doing that. I do like to see that. That is actually really good indication that we have a pretty decent NAS over here to be able to edit a 4K UHD production. Not incredibly complicated, but certainly it does have a good bit of audio data. It does have a good number of clips to it, and the files that are actually comprising all of this, it's not a small amount of files. I would say there's probably 20 or so files in there that are comprising this. So yeah, this is quite a few different files that are comprising this. So count me impressed for that. That's actually really cool. I think I could see myself using this for multiple different use cases, but being all flash, one of the biggest ones that I think a lot of people may gravitate towards if you are, in a small footprint kind of environment, maybe an apartment, maybe you don't have a lot of space, is being able to utilize something this small and have this level of performance on it as a NAS. That's pretty awesome. And if you wanted to get into installing VMs, you can do that right here pretty easily. However, apps make this actually really easy to do also. So for Debian, Bookworm, and we can install that right here. Click apply, and we'll have an OS installed inside a container in no time. Given the network connection that we have and this being a NAS, I'm not sure I see a really compelling argument for going significantly higher than, say, even in 970 Evo Plus. That's a pretty low end NVMe, but I just don't see a compelling reason to go significantly higher because 2.5 gigabit on a NAS will limit you. It does have 2 USB ports. There is a display out. You may be able to pass through operating system, and that could work just perfectly for you. And that might actually make this into a desktop class machine of questionable speed with the N5105, but it is possible to do. So there are a lot of options here, but being able to load up an operating system pretty fast is something that's really cool. And with Docker, you can do that pretty easily. And this is not actually a bad performance that we're seeing on this here. You can see your applications. Everything does work like you would expect it to work. And even still, we're only hitting about 15 to 16 watts right now with that Docker running. So pretty cool.
So this is actually a pretty interesting package when you consider that you get a UnRAID license that is upgradable, and you can do a lot with USB and USB-C. This device has both, and it does have a 2.5 gigabit NIC. That is a bonus, and if you've been looking at some of the other prices of all-flash NAS devices out there, they're quite high. This is actually very attractive given what we've mentioned here. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this device. I think it's pretty cool. I would love to see a higher price variant that did bring in a better CPU. I would also love to see 10 gigabit as an option here as well, because that could really set this apart from a lot of the other devices out there. If you are interested in an all-flash NAS, let me know why. I'm interested in what your use cases look like, because this is something that, I've got quite a bit of big hardware, definitely some power and efficient hardware, but a lot of big hardware. So it doesn't necessarily occur to me what some people might be looking at, a low wattage kind of NAS, like that's all flash, high performance, and what those use cases look like. I'm interested to know. Everybody have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys next time.